He was the young adult director under our administration, and he served that capacity very, very well and faithful. Um, and we have seen him grow, and as well, he's seen us grow into who we are today in God's kingdom. So at this time, without further ado, I present to you all, those who do not know, um, my advisor, my director, my friend, Dr. Brian Champion, who will give us our overview for tonight and our lesson on career development and planning.
All right. First of all, good evening, everyone, and hope that everyone is having a great day. It's my pleasure to be here with the Ministry to Men. I'm not able to tell who all is on, so I just kind of will say quickly, giving thanks to Bishop Brown, the chairman of this department, and Anthony Smokes, our general secretary, and to James Blackman, who's coordinating this program and giving me the opportunity to share with the group today. Now, I know we're kind of short on time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the formalities. But what we wanted to talk about today a little bit was, and kind of maybe just giving a different type of spin on when we look at career development. And then I kind of wanted to put it in a way of looking at your personal advisory board. So, how do you develop and maintain that personal advisory board that begins to help you develop and further your career uh, as we move forward? So, I'm just going to just kind of give a little background. And again, here it is a Thursday evening. A lot of things are going on. You could be doing a lot of things, but you chose to be with us tonight. And so you're probably wondering in context, is this for me? Is this a good thing? Why am I here? Well, this webinar is for you if you are trying to align your calling, your passion, and your gifts into a successful career. As I spent many years in federal government and now in academia, I've found that a lot of individuals who struggle in their career are often struggling because there's a lack of alignment with their passion. So they're being asked to do something that's not really, they're not passionate about. It's something that doesn't also align with their gifts. So they're gifted to do something, but they're not getting the chance to really have the opportunity to share those gifts in a way of vocation. And see, we also want to just talk about it as our career as being part of our calling. And kind of again having a different mindset in which we begin to think of vocational ministry and how our career actually supports our ability to do ministry. Secondly, if you want to begin to write your own narrative and challenge others to align with you and your brand. So, what is your brand? Are people seeing you in a way that you want them to see you? If you want to grow and expand your circle of influence and have a bigger, broader professional network, we often talk about the fact that many times in our opportunities to be successful, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. But actually, it's even greater than that because it's who knows you. Who's calling your name when you're not in the room? Who's suggesting you? Who's thinking about you? And if people don't know you, then they can't call your name. And so when we think through this, we think about how we can expand our network so that people know us. People know our gifts. They know what we have to offer. And then finally, if you want to understand how to engage your mentors, coaches, and sponsors to leverage you in success. So these are the things that we want you to get out of this session today. And we'll start with a little background in our New Testament scripture, Romans 12:3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. And just kind of quickly kind of delving into this a little bit. This verse, and I chose this verse because this verse emphasizes our importance, or the importance to us, of self-reflection and self-awareness. If we don't take the time to self-reflect, we're not aware of who we are, then how do we understand what our calling is, what our passion, what our gifts are? Are we chasing the dreams of someone else, or what someone else is trying to tell us what we should be? But when we become self-aware and we reflect on the things that God has given us, we come to a place that we can be more effective in our career, in that vocation that we choose. It also talks in the scripture about not being overconfident, about being humble, being realistic, recognizing the gifts that God has given you, the talents. And so oftentimes we can be a little uh forceful because we believe we should get certain things. Sometimes, and we talk about uh, people at times wanting to be privileged because they think it's their right or something they deserve. We also think because somebody else has it, then we should get it too. But sometimes being realistic helps us understand that this is not for us. And so now, again, being there, attracting the things that are actually for us. Then also the scripture just kind of tells us that you didn't do this on your own. These gifts were given to you by God. And that when God shared these gifts with you, this is what makes you uniquely you, makes you uniquely who you are. So when we talk about being our authentic self, we're our authentic self when we begin to recognize what God has given us and using God's gifts. So as we go further through the verse, in verses 4 through 8, it invites us to align our calling with our passion and accept the mindset of career as vocational ministry. So and many may even remember in the first two verses how it talks about transforming our mind. And this is what we often have to do, change our mindset so that we now have a mindset where we look at not about making money, not about success, but actually a way of using God's gifts in a way of ministry to further our career. So as these verses talk a little further, and it talks about using your gifts, understanding that your gifts are unique, that one person has one gift and another person has another gift. So if your gift is singing, then sing. If your gift is prophecy, prophesy. If your gift is teaching, teach. If your gift is exhorting, exhort. But if your gift is leading, lead. But again, aligning ourselves with our gifts so that we may be able to operate authentically within our gifts. So I just want to kind of drop this type of reflective question for you just to think about for a moment. And I meant to ask this at the beginning, hoping that you all are seeing these slides as I'm kind of going through this presentation. Um, so when you see you, when people see you, what is it that they see? Have you ever asked yourself that? And when we think through this even deeper, do they see the you that you see? So as we look in the mirror and we see ourselves, we see a reflection of who we believe we are. But do others see us as we are, or do they see a different us? Do they see us different than we see ourselves? And this is just something to reflect and think about for just a moment. So when we think through this, we think about our brand. And that's what they see. They see our brand. Our brand is actually our reputation. Whether you're trying to have one or not, you have one. And so we have to recognize that. So the thing is that when we talk about how we see ourselves versus how others see us, it's really interesting because we see ourselves. You see yourself based on the things you believe you can do. I know I can do it. I believe I can do it. I've had experience doing it. And so we see ourselves through that lens. Others see us based on the things that they've seen and heard. So while I may have the ability to do something, if no one has ever seen me do it, then they don't see us in that same light. They don't see me in that same light. So sometimes we have opportunities, we have skills that don't come out in our current job because the job doesn't require it. But we've gained these skills through maybe education, maybe a former job, maybe through opportunities we've had to grow in the church. We've had this, but because people haven't seen them, they have no reason to believe that you can do it. So they begin to build their brand with a different data set than you do. Their perspective is different. Their lens is different. And that's why we often have a disconnect between how people see us, how our reputation and the reputation that we actually want to have. So ensuring that others see you the same way that you see yourself takes intentional actions. You got to brand yourself and market yourself. You have to change the narrative and write the narrative so the individuals see you the way that you want to be seen. Just waiting for them to see you in that light just doesn't happen. So what I often may have to do, I have to sell myself. I have to share little experience. I have to drop little things to individuals that I think need to know that. And again, it takes very intentional behavior. So how do you build your brand? You build your brand through a few things. Self-awareness. Know who you are. So what are my skills and my abilities? Because if these are my skills and abilities, or if this is my calling, and this is something that I feel is important to me, and I don't have all the skills, what do I need to do to begin to gain those skills? So again, knowing where I am, who I am, what are my values? Understanding and knowing our values becomes very important because now when we look at our values, sometimes we just find there's certain roles, responsibilities, and jobs that we just don't want to take. We're not going to be happy in those things. And because of that, we're not going to thrive. And then as another part of self-awareness is getting feedback, knowing what others are saying about you. Because when you know what others are saying about you, if it's not the thing that you want them to say, you can begin to correct that narrative. You can write your own narrative. I've always felt that it's better for me to tell people what I want them to know about me than someone else. Even though their intentions might be good, sometimes they can't sell me as good as I can sell myself. So knowing what others are saying allows me to be able to sell myself based on what I'm hearing others are saying about me. And then we create that narrative. What is your elevator speech? How are you showing individuals that this is who I am? If you just get a flash moment in a few seconds, what is it that you do in order to share who you are to those that don't know you, or those who may not know the you that you want the narrative to be? And then the other important part of building your brand is maximizing your personal network. Who will share your story? Who's going to share your story on your behalf when you're not in the room? when you're not available? Who is the same person who's sharing the narrative that you've created? Not the narrative, not their own narrative, but sharing your narrative. And we get people to share our narrative by expanding our network. Maximizing our network also means understanding the use of mentors, coaches, and sponsors. And I'm going to get a little bit further into this as we move along. One of the things I do want to say and share as we move forward, if you're serious about expanding your career and making a difference, we're not going to answer all your questions in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. This is going to have to be something that we have takeaways. So I'm not sure what you're expecting, but I'm just sharing this up front that you're going to get homework. There's some things that you're going to be asked to do beyond today. What we're going to be looking at also is the ability to set you up with partners, with accountability partners. And in these accountability partners, that you will have an opportunity to share with individuals as we move forward. I'm going to pause for a moment just to see. Okay, you're saying you don't see the slides.
Correct.
Okay, I've been on a roll.
That's it. Yeah, they're not up. You're talking good, Doc.
Okay, are y'all seeing them now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to do at the end of the presentation, I'm going to share the slides. I apologize that I've gone all the way through 6 without sharing them with you. But I'm glad I did take a minute to pause and look at the chat just to see if there was anything coming forward. So, as we continue to move through this discussion, so we talk about building your brand. And so building your brand again is about writing your narrative. And so what you see here on this is I have a company. My company is called Team Champion LLC. And in marketing my company, I had to come up with a brand. I had to come up with some of the things that were important to me. Now, so what I did is I put together a logo. And what you see is champion and accountability, collaboration, and transformation. These are the 3 pillars of my company. And when I talk to clients and when I talk to individuals about what I do, I want to be able to put it in perspective of this. So as I built the brand for the company, what I did is quickly, I want to be able to tell people what my mission is. So as a company that deals in executive coaching, organizational development, leadership training, uh, all of these things that we do, we want to be able to say that these are our 3 pillars. And we assist individuals and groups to reach their goals. We want to, first of all, be your accountability partner. So we work with you and walk with you through the process to ensure that you achieve your goal. We're collaborating, helping you build bigger networks toward success. And then finally, we help you transform your ideas into actionable goals. And so when people talk about Team Champion as a company, these are the things I want them to talk about. I want them to talk about the things we do. So we begin building our brand. Now, I'm sure some people could say other things about the company because they've had dealings with them. But I don't want them to just make up their own words. I want to guide them in order to help them understand what I want them to say about me. And this is what we do when we build our brand. So I'm just going to say this real quick. And when we think about building brands, we think about companies. how they build brands, how when you see certain things, you just associate it with them. And that's not by mistake, that's by intentional action. They build their brand, they decide this is what we want to be known for. Coca-Cola, it's the real thing. You know, I'm sure some of you can talk about others. When you talk about what's that company that does the um, insulation for your home? It's pink. And so they want you to think about them. And actually, they even made it where other companies couldn't make, um, they couldn't use the color pink in insulation because they wanted to be unique. They wanted you to be able to identify the pink insulation with them. And these are the types of things we do as we begin to um, build. Now, what I'm not sure is that we get the ability to put the people into uh, groups.
No,
If
we're not
not,
going, no, we're not going to be able to.
okay.
We went into webinar mode and we should have
Oh, no,
relocated some of
that's
that
fine.
detail.
So this is what I want you to do. Again, as I mentioned, it's going to be some homework, and we're going to just adjust it. What I'd like for each of you to do is take a sheet of paper and write down 3 to 5 words that describe how you would like people, or words that you would like people to use when describing you. So I gave you a couple of words a moment ago when I said I want people to say, I'm accountable, that I'm collaborative, that I'm transforming. These are some of the words that I use. So what I'd like for you to do, just take a moment and write down about 3 to 5 words on that sheet of paper. And instead of breaking off into pairs, what I'd like for you to do, if you could, drop some of the words in the chat so we can see some of those words that you would like people to use to describe you. Okay, I see dependable. Any other words? Okay, I see Brother Brandon raised his hand. Innovative. All right.
Yeah, I think, brother Dr. Chairman, I think we may adjust for next month instead of me doing leadership development. I think I may just let you come back and do part 2.
All right. Well, and I apologize. I don't think if anybody's put anything in the chat, I don't think I am seeing. Oh no, I now see dependable, reliable, consistent, trustworthy, quality, great words, leadership, visionary, dependable. Thank you. These are some great words. But are we sure these are the same words that people are using to describe us? And if not, how do we start putting those words into their lips, their mouths, and into the way that they begin to share? And I mentioned a moment ago about the elevator speech. And I just want to, we all often hear people talk about it, but I just want to kind of define the elevator speech as a clear, brief commercial about you. It communicates to everyone who you are, what you're looking for, and how you can benefit their company or organization. The elevator speech is usually about 30 seconds. And it's the time that it takes for somebody to go from the lobby to about the 10th floor. And many a times that's all we get. We just get a brief moment. Have you ever had someone to ask you a question and you think about it, say, well, what do you want? What would you like? And you think about it and you didn't answer it as well as you had wished you had. And then at the end of the day, you kind of think to yourself, I wish I had said this. I wish I had said. When we develop our elevator speech, we're ready. When that opportunity comes and we have that few moments, we're able to pique their interest just enough for them to want to find out more. So who is that James Blackman guy that I met on the elevator? And I might start asking questions about him. And when I start asking questions, what do I hope they're saying about James Blackman? I'm hoping they're saying about James Blackman those same words that he placed in the chat. Because he's been sharing this elevator speech with enough people that now every time somebody mentions him, they say, well, you know what I know about James is, you know, this is what he's interested in. This is what he's good at. This is how I believe he can benefit the organization. You're creating that narrative. So this is going to be your homework. What I'd like for you to do is to take those words that you said that you would like people to use to describe you and create a 30-second elevator speech. Create that speech that uses those words that now help people to understand and define you. This is what we would like for you to do over the next few weeks. Again, I told you it's going to be some homework, and as we get through this, there'll be some more. The next piece I just kind of want to mention is this thing about building your personal advisory board. And again, for many of us, we don't really think this way at times about how do I want my advisory board to look. We do think about the different people that we want in our lives that we think could be helpful to us. But when we think about them as an advisory board, we begin to think of it different. You know, how are businesses and successful companies and corporations set up? They have advisory boards, they have shareholders, they have all these different things that come together. And so when we think about developing our personal advisory board, we're developing a group of individuals that support our brand. So my brand, the ACT, the accountability, the collaboration, the transformation, they support my brand. And they provide me advice that they think is going to help me be successful in reaching my goal. So they have no other interest but supporting me and helping me. And what we want to find in this group is diverse individuals with diverse roles. What, you know, and I say this because we often feel comfortable surrounding ourselves with people who are just like us. They think the way we do, they have similar experiences that we have. We're comfortable with them. And this is just part of human nature. But when we start engaging diverse individuals, people who have different backgrounds, they begin to bring different perspectives. When I've been on boards, the one thing I've noticed, the one thing I've appreciated is how we bring in individuals who have different expertise. So one might be real financial savvy, another may be legal savvy, others may know the industry. And all these people come together bringing their unique perspective and bring you good advice. And when we often limit ourselves to just having one go-to person, sometimes as much as that person wants to help you, they just don't have the bandwidth to give you everything you need. As much as I want to be helpful to folk, You know, I'm going to just be honest with you. You don't want to come to me for legal advice because I can't really tell you. The best advice I can probably give you, the best legal advice I can give you is to go see a lawyer. But the thing is, sometimes we force people into these roles of something they're not comfortable with. So when we look at having this diverse group, we bring in people who can help us to reach our goal. And they become a key part of that professional network. So there's three things. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I move on, I just want to say, how does your network look? Does your network look like the one on the left, where you see 6 individuals who are standing there side by side? Or does it look like the one on the right, where individuals appear to be connected? What I want to challenge you is to get into a connected network. The network on the left kind of reminds me of the old days when you just used to have a standalone computer. And the standalone computer used to work like this. They put a computer in your desk, they put some software on it, they give you some memory, and you have a hard drive, and your ability was limited to what you had on that desktop. If you didn't have that software on there, you couldn't access it. If you ran out of memory, you were in trouble. If you ran out of disk space, you had to start deleting things, or you couldn't do anything more. But then on the right, when you see this connected network, and you think about how now computers are networked, you don't have to have the software on your computer anymore to access it. You can click a link and you have access to the software. You have additional memory, you have storage. So now we're storing on the cloud or shared drives, all of these things. When we think about our personal network, we want to be connected with people who then connect us to other people. So now I'm not just limited to what I know. I have the shared knowledge of those individuals I am networked with. I have access to others in their network. So now not only can I call this person, I can call them and say, well, can you call such and such for me? Can you make an introduction? When I used to select mentors, the one thing I used to want to make sure when I selected a mentor, I wanted access to that mentor's network. So I didn't want a mentor who was part of my same network because I already knew everybody they knew, or I already had access to those people. I wanted to have access to people I didn't know who were part of another network. And that was one of the reasons I chose them and asked them to be my mentor. So we think about creating a brand or creating a board, I should say. There's 3 components that I want to ask us to kind of consider. And the first component and member of that board would be a mentor. And a mentor is that relationship where we find that more experienced person who guides a less experienced person. The assumption is that the mentor has, you know, expertise, they're subject matter expert, and that they help bring you along. And this is very important. I know I think it was our first session, we talked about mentorship. So I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but it's just important that you get that mentor. Now I'm going to tell you something else, a little secret in the sauce, is that I think you ought to have at least 3 mentors. And the reason that you have more than one mentor is because, again, people have different expertise. And you want to rely on those varying levels of expertise. Sometimes you can't talk to everybody about everything. And so now maybe I talk to this mentor about this and I talk to that mentor about that. It doesn't just limit my outlets. And when we think about this, again, we find mentors who are often outside of our immediate circle, so that, again, we have access to a bigger and broader network. The second individual is the coach. And oftentimes people think of coaching and mentoring in a very similar way, but they're very different. And a coach is an individual who partners with you and they engage you in thought-provoking conversation. They help inspire you to grow, but what they really do is they help bring out the best in you. They ask you questions, they walk with you, but they don't give you the answers. What they often do is help you find your way so that you don't need them anymore. As a professional coach, one of the things that I often say to individuals is that if my job, if I do it right, I actually put myself in a situation where you don't need me any longer. You're gone. I'm gone. If I do good work, I work my way out of a job. And that's what a coach does. And so when we look at this thing of coaching and mentoring and the differences, I'd like to kind of make reference to a um, African proverb, and many of you may have heard it, and I hope that I'm saying it right. But if a man is hungry and you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for the day. That's what a mentor does. When you have a problem, you go to the mentor solves the problem for you and gives you the answer. The problem is that that same man gets hungry tomorrow and he has to come back for another fish. When we go to our mentor, oftentimes they help us solve the problem, but we go right back to the mentor when we're facing the next problem. The second part of that proverb says that if a man is hungry, you teach the man to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. This is the coach. So when you come to the coach and the coach works with you and helps you process things, helps you think through decisions, you begin to be able to solve those same situations and problems without them. You're fed for a lifetime. You don't need the coach anymore. We move on. And when we think about this, we want and need both coaches and mentors in our life. The third uh, thing that I just want to say is that we need a sponsor. And a lot of times people say, well, sponsorship is not a good word. Uh, it often means favoritism and things of that nature. And I say, yeah, uh, maybe it's not the appropriate thing to have, but the thing that is that somebody else got one, so I should have one too. And if somebody else got someone that's advocating for them, then I want somebody advocating for me. I want to find someone who can help me while I'm growing and learning, is seeing and ensuring that I get additional opportunities, more, more face time, all of these things, helping me grow. And the sponsor usually is sitting at a very high place in an organization that is able to make things happen. I often share this story with when I was working in the federal government. I would share with coworkers about what a sponsor was able to do for me. And when we think about this, it's I was talking to the sponsor and I had become aware of a position that was open in our Philadelphia office. I was in DC working at headquarters. And I was telling this sponsor that I was interested in the position. It hadn't been posted yet, but because it was a lateral, I was trying to get in touch with the individual that was the hiring manager. And this person hadn't returned my call. And the sponsor kind of just said to me, said, "Oh, I know him. I'll give them a call, let them know you're interested. That afternoon, I got a call from the individual saying, hey, when are you going to be available? I thought he was asking when was I going to be available for the interview. He was actually asking me when was I going to be able to report for the new job. Because the advocate was able to share with this individual who I was, share my brand, and allow that individual to be comfortable placing me in the job without ever having a conversation with me. So when we think about this thing of a sponsor, I just kind of want to throw this in. Hey, I'm Brian Champion, um, and Jesus is my sponsor. When we think about how we move forward and we think about our ability to become a, aligned again with our mission, our passion, our gifts. We think about this because it was a gift from God. Understanding that Jesus being our sponsor and kind of staying in constant dialogue with Jesus and our words of prayer. So we're not going to just make this all about getting getting the work done, because I'm going to tell you, you got to have the right faith life to also be successful in your career. It's just going to be just because you are able to do the job. It's going to be because your relationship with God is right. And so, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, when we were talking through the scripture, you didn't get here all by yourself. And when we look at Jesus as our sponsor, he's our divine advocate. He's the one that's putting it on other people's heart to see you in the way that you want to be seen. It's our coach and our mentor. Because what we have is we have the word, that if we follow the word of God through the Bible and through the other people that God puts in our lives, we will see the path that God has for us. My host, my guide, my protector, God is going to make God's promises come true. I just have to be faithful. And my intercessor and sustainer. So when I feel that I'm in trouble, God steps in and calms the water and sustains me to keep me above water. And because of that, we go to Philippians 4:13. We say this all the time, but how many of us truly believe it? That I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. That word through is the key word in this, through Christ. Again, we don't do it by ourselves. We are able to do it because we are aligned with Christ. And when we align with Christ, we align with the vision, the gifts that God has given us, that we have the ability to come through and be successful and to do all the things that God has planned for us to do. We can have our heart's desires, but again, if we're not working through Christ, if we just want to go out here and say, I'm going to do it my way, we find ourselves not accomplishing the things that we want. So my challenge to you today is to align that vision, that mission, that thought of where you want to go in your career with the calling that God has placed on your life. That you're not doing this job, no matter what it is, just to be doing it. You're doing it because God has called you to that vocation. God has called you to do that work. And as we look at doing that work, whatever it is, and we understand that we're ministering to someone in some type of way through the work we do, we can find joy and success in our career. So, the last piece of homework that I'm going to give you, again, we weren't able to break off into our groups, but that doesn't stop us from doing this. What I'd like for you to do is to begin to build your advisory board. Identify those members that you think will help you increase your self-awareness, help you develop your brand, help you expand your professional network. And what I'd like for you to do is then list them down. What's the role? What is it that I need from that individual? And reach out to them and ask them, are you willing to be part of my advisory board? Here is my vision. Here is my elevator speech. This is my goal. Can you partner with me to help me get there? And although, we're not going to ask you to turn in anything saying that you've done it, I'm just going to ask you to have begun the process by the next time we meet in August. Again, what we hope to get and the change we want to make in our lives doesn't happen in 1 hour. This is just something to spark thoughts in your mind, to get you moving and helping you create this advisory board and help you create the career that you hope to have. So the question is, and as we move forward, can a personal advisory board help you or someone you know? Covey tells us if we want to really learn something, to teach it to someone else. So if you think an advisory board will help somebody else, share some of what we talked about today with them and help them build their advisory board. Select good mentors, coaches, and sponsors who will help you develop your brand. And as I say, coach someone else, mentor someone else, or sponsor someone else that needs your help. These are the things that we're asking you to do as you leave this session tonight. So I don't know if we're able to open it up for final questions or comments. I think, Brother James, we got 7 minutes. And you're on mute, Doc.
Yeah, I don't think we're able to get questions while we're in a webinar session. Are we, Sister Doss?
No, we can't, but people can put questions in. Those who are on the webinar, they can put questions in,
Right.
or we can see them in the chat. And also on Facebook Live, you may also comment in the chat. If I see something, I will let you know.
Yes, ma'am. But we greatly appreciate you, Dr. Champion, for really bringing it all together from February, March, April, May, and June sessions. You really brought it all together and hit on key points from each one of those sessions. My question is, as we look at our roles, not only in church, but in the communities, are we being sponsors or are we being mentors? And you kind of hit on, we need both. But I want us to individually say, what are we being to other people in our community? Are we being the mentor to where we give them information and then they help them out for that one time? Are we truly teaching them how to be self-sufficient? Are we giving them skills that they can use as a lifetime instead of something that will be instant gratification for that season? So you challenged me, Doc, and I greatly appreciate it. And let's see, I think we have, they're just saying awesome presentation. Thank you, Dr. Champion. And I can't see on Facebook. But my question, I have a question, Doc. As we look at branding, how important is branding in personal development period?
So the one thing I want to say is that you have a brand. People talking about you. I mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but it's your brand. And as you think about that brand, is it the narrative you want people to say about you? I mean, I've heard a lot of things about me that I didn't like. And oftentimes it was because maybe I was misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was because someone just didn't know me. And so when I looked back on it and I thought to myself, can't nobody write that but me. So how do I want to be seen? My father used to tell me when I was young, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people come into the office making an impression that turns people off. And I'm not going to say what that is, but they're doing something that's turning people off. And whatever that is if you do something different and you start turning people towards you, you'll see a big difference. A junky office, people think you're unorganized. It doesn't have anything to do with your ability to do anything. Someone comes in for an interview and they're late. Those first impressions are lasting impressions. You can begin to, one, when you don't have that good first impression, to change the narrative. But then secondly, if you're proactive about it, you can create the narrative before anybody else has an opportunity to say anything else about you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did just do, I hope that it's to everyone. I actually put a PDF of the slides in the chat. If you click on that, it should allow you to download it to your computer. Unfortunately, my understanding is if you are on the telephone, then you won't be able to receive it. But I will send it to Brother James, and so that he has it and it can be accessible to anyone who would like to be able to have a copy of the slides.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc. If you can stop your screen sharing.
Okay, I'm going to share one last slide.
Okay, go ahead.
And then this is just my closing slide. It's my
Okay.
way of saying, hey, if you think I can be helpful to you as part of your network, please, let's stay in touch. The QR code will allow you to have all my contact information, or you can copy it here. You can just take your phone now and stick it up to that QR code, and then you could also send me yours. Or you can catch me on LinkedIn. I always tell people LinkedIn's a really great place to connect because it is a professional network and it allows us to be update with what's going on with everybody. Sometimes somebody gets a new job and you say, hey, wow, I know somebody else who does that. Let me connect those two people. See, these are some of the things that we have to start using as tools to help us in our career development. So as I share that, I'm going to stop sharing slides. And thanks again for the opportunity. And, I really appreciate everybody's participation in tonight.
Thank you so much, Brother Champion. And it's not a shameless plug. If you don't advertise yourself, no one will. And so and what you said something when you answered my question, and it was something I had to learn myself when I was in college getting my undergrad at the University of South Alabama. It was a PWI, so there in 2007, 2008, there wasn't many of us on campus. And so a lot of guys, and I was guilty of my first semester. We would just have those 10, 11 o'clock classes. We would just get up, go with whatever we had on, t-shirt and sweats or shorts and flip flops. And so one of my mentors, and it actually she was the psychology department chair, and she was a black female. She said, "Blackman, I know your parents, I know your grandparents. They would not want you to walk around campus when there's only a few of us looking the way you look." She said, "You not only represent yourself, but you represent them as well." And so, and when you mention branding, we have to also pay attention and realize that branding not only makes people look at us differently, but it makes people look at our parents differently, our community different, those who raised us. So we're not just a living example of ourselves, but we're living examples of others who poured into us. And so I'm going to be using your shameless plug out. You're going to be one of my sponsor. So get ready, sponsor. I'm gonna be reaching out to you, but I greatly appreciate it. I hate we can't have Brother Smokes or Bishop Thomas come on because I think I saw them both on. But thank you again, Dr. Champion, for those warm words of wisdom. We may have to do a second part of this one next month. So if I reach out in the next couple of days, just be like, James, I knew it was coming. Amen. Thank you so much to Sister Doss, who was in for Dr. Duhart today, who's in West Tennessee annual conference doing that missionary night. So thank you again for all your hard work and your support as we go through our Ministry to Men Brotherhood 2025 cohort. Be looking forward to everyone's participation on next month in our August session. Please, I know a lot of kids, my kids are getting ready to go back to school in the next 2 weeks. We have to take my niece to college on the 14th. So be praying for our students who are going back off to school and college. Pray for our educators, those in our community, and those who are in our church. So I don't have anything else, but thank you again, Dr. Champion. Thank you, Dr. Doss. Thank you, Brother Smokes, who's our General Secretary, and Bishop Brown, who is our chair. Brother Champion, I'm going to let you do our closing remarks and anything you have to say. If Sister Doss doesn't have anything she'd like to say.
All right, I just want to say again, thanks to you and to the Department of Ministry to Men, which is a vital department in our church. And so while we're making plugs and being very proactive about it, a department that needs to stay. And I hope that each of you who are part of this session today will recognize the importance of Ministry to Men, how it not only brings laymen together, but it also brings clergymen. And no other organization in our church will allow that same type of bond. So we just ask that you pray for the Ministry to Men, that you will pray for its continued growth, and that you will support any of the discussion coming from opposers, that you will not support the conversation coming from opposers, but, support conversations against those opposers, because this is a vital ministry that we need. We just say, God bless you, continue to bless you in the work that you're doing on the local level, because that's where it matters.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Brother Blackman, anything else before we close off?
That'll be all. I greatly appreciate Dr. Champion ending us with a challenge on tonight. We always have to be ready in season and out of season. So we're at a point now in our church where we're in season for general conference, and discussions will be had regarding many ministries and general departments. So we ask that you all be prayerful and diligent and do your research. A lot of times misinformation is given out, and we take it for what it's worth instead of doing the research ourselves to get to know what departments and who the individuals are that actually run those departments, how they can actually have better help within the local churches. So I greatly appreciate you for that challenge, Dr. Champion. But other than that, now, Sister Doss, I don't have anything. Thank you all, and have a good night. Have a blessed night.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you.